It's so nice to see everyone today. Welcome to Rebel 11. My name is Joni Parsons. I'm one of the co-creators, and we created Rebel 11 5 years ago. It's our anniversary, actually, to have edgy, informative, and fun conversations with women for women. We also hold retreats here in the Pacific Northwest and around the globe. Welcome to Rebel 11. I'm so happy that you're here today, and we're here to talk about money, something that is one of the most important things that we can talk about as women. And as you know, Valentine's Day is on Friday or on Monday, and Galentine's Day for the gals is on Sunday. And I thought, what an important topic to discuss is money, about for self-love, for Galentine's Day and Valentine's Day. It's all about us today. And the reason why is because the most important thing that we can do for ourselves as women is to figure out our money issues and how to build our money mindset. So the saying goes, money makes the world go round, and it's true. And no matter what you do in life, there is no shame around building wealth. Being financially secure gives you options, not just for yourself, but for your family, and inspires others to do so as well. I am so thrilled to introduce Erin Papworth, one of the most enthusiastic, energetic people I know that I call friend. She's a two-time entrepreneur and also the founder of Navit, which we'll hear more about later. Welcome, Erin. So nice to see you.
So wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm enthusiastic. I'm ready to go.
I know you are, and I just love that. I always feed off Erin's enthusiasm. Which
I hope that's not annoying. I hope it's actually.
No, it's good. I love it. Are you kidding? I love it. So I wanted to start off, Erin, by just talking, what inspired you around money and women? Like what has led you to this door to open Navit and to be an inspiration for all of us?
It's a great question. Thank you. I was thinking about this because it has evolved over time. But my initial reason to start Navit, and really my passion for empowering women around money, is that I really feel like it's the next major hurdle that we need to overcome for our society and for our world to be a better, healthier, happier, more equal place. And women are just at this incredible moment in our history where we've had thousands of years of oppression and a lack of ability to make our own money or have our own money. And this generation finally has access. We finally have access to the labor market. Yes, it's being threatened. Things are threatening it for sure. But the women that came before us fought to give us access and have and we now control a lot more of the economy and money than we ever did before. And we haven't talked about it. We haven't, because of our history, we don't have a feminine rhetoric and a feminine narrative and vocabulary around money that really is empowering and allows us to think about money as a tool to help us get where we want to go and to build wealth and think about building wealth and not have shame or guilt or all the negative things around it. So I'm really inspired. And I think it's the next thing that we have to do to make the world a better place for our kids.
I couldn't agree more. And I know that you spent time in Africa, Erin, and that really inspired you around money. And we were actually just talking about this before we went live. Can you tell us about women in Africa and what you saw and how that is transitioning your view here in the US?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was so lucky and I am so privileged to have worked in Africa and to have worked with incredible women all over the world, really. And what I saw in Africa was that it just was 101 economic logic. The minute you empowered women and girls to have higher education, even high school, have better access to healthcare, and thus be able to participate in the labor market, your GDP of the country directly correlated, right? You had you had just the ability to raise socioeconomic status of an entire country. And when you suppress them, you saw the opposite. You saw the inverse when there were, women were burned with having 5 children and a lack of education or a lack of healthcare resources. You were in the lower, quadrant of socioeconomic status. So I was very inspired that giving women access to economic growth and power really does change the entire trajectory of a society. And you see it with the money. I think we were saying this before, right?
Mm-hmm.
We know in specifically in developing countries, if you get women more money, some sort of way of generating more cash, 90% of their income goes back to some societal beneficial thing, either education of their kids, impact in the society, their own business. And that's only 30 to 40% of men. And this is not to hate on men, we need them as allies, but there's just reality. Women have this social impact perspective that is the key to unlocking economic growth for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, I've been to Africa and saw some of that, and also in Cuba, in the slums, like the women actually took over and made change, built, apartments for their kids. I mean, it was really the women driving the economic impact there. So let's transition here right now to your company, Navit. What was the inspiration? And please tell us what Navit is and what it's about.
Yes. Well, we just talked a little bit about the inspiration. When I came back to the US, I saw, I've been working with really marginalized populations like female sex workers and high-risk groups for HIV. And when I came back to the States, I looked around and I said, the same fear, the same emotional reaction to money, the same lack of education around it or confidence around it, the same fear that exists that I was working with in Africa, it's the same here. We have a lack of literacy. We have women now in the labor market with money, but this lack of kind of confidence and knowledge and real drive to create wealth and think about what wealth can do to us. It was the same issue. It was just a completely different economic, like financial system. And the thing about the United States is that we have the opportunity with access to credit that in a cash-based societies in Africa, you just don't have. Like credit allows you, it's an incredible downfall. There too, it's a double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword.
Totally. But when you have access to credit, you have this ability to grow wealth in ways that a cash-based society can never hope to. So I came back and I said, look, these are the same psychological issues. And money management in this is really much more about psychology than it is about numbers and cents and math, right? You can learn the numbers and cents, you can learn the math, but really finding a personal relationship with money, understanding your triggers around it, understanding how you want to use it and what you want from it, that was really missing, I felt. So Navit is money. Yes, I'll get there eventually. Money mindfulness tool. So it allows you, it marries behavioral science like a Fitbit or a finance tracker with basic money management. So it helps you build habits, gives you kind of mindfulness practice. You can check in on your stress levels. You can look at your transactions and kind of swipe. We do have a bumble swipe left, right, neutral on your transactions that helps you kind of build a picture of what money you feel is serving you, what choices are serving you. And then over time, we give you a roadmap to help you create the foundations of financial health. So do you spend less than you earn? Do you have emergency fund? Do you pay off interest debt? And we give you that kind of as a toolbox to help you marry your psychology and the basics to grow your wealth over time.
That's fantastic. And I also just want to mention that as women, if we're in a partnership, it's really important to know where your money is. I just want to bring this up because I know that there are some married people on here as well, but a friend of mine, I was talking to her about, relationships and where her money was. And she goes, I have no idea where the family money is. So not only just taking care of yourself, but in a partnership, you should definitely know where your money is. Just want to add that.
Yes.
So it's about self-care in all situations. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was money mindset and how do you build your own money mindset and where does it start? It starts with how we grew up and what we were taught. And it's, Laura, you just shared in the website or in the chat that you grew up during the Depression and, you tend to be very frugal. Well, that's a great start to our conversation about where does your money story come from. So Erin, let's start with yours and then I'll share mine, which is you were laughing the other day at it.
Oh, it's such a good one. It's
so.
Yes, the power of of sharing these stories too. Thank you, Lori, for offering yours. Is that, you know, we all navigate the same financial system, but we all have really unique relationships and experiences that kind of inform and are determinants for what our outcomes are. So I'm excited to hear yours, a little bit more of yours, Joni. I'm happy to tell mine. So my parents were divorced. They divorced when I was about 5, and I had a very diverse parental group. My first money memory is my dad giving me his spare change and going to the bank and, like, you know, having those little counter things, like count money for you, and feeling the power, like the excitement of getting the cash from that money. But also he often did that when he had been a jerk and he was like trying to kind of get my forgiveness. So I had a really like interesting relationship with men and money, because there was a lot of control in my world of like misbehavior and then buy you something. And so I had to unpack a lot of that as I grew up into my adulthood, what that is. But he was also an entrepreneur. So what I saw from him was this like incredible work ethic, but also volatility, right? Lots of stress and investors and lawsuits and success and all these things that were really volatile. So my association with like actual wealth and like growing wealth was hyper masculine volatility that I didn't want anything to do with. That was scary, right? Mm-hmm. And then my mom was a teacher at a private little Christian school that there probably didn't make more than $40,000 a year in her entire lifetime. And she was the giver and she gave back, but she's incredibly frugal. You know, there was a lot of like shopping at Goodwill, and you know, if we went on vacation, it was my aunt helped us out and did that. So there was like these extremes of this wealth and volatility and masculinity, and then the feminine was hyper frugal, didn't really take a lot of time out for herself, or there's no self-care really. It was just really kind of penny pinching. So it took me one thing that I am grateful for in my childhood is that I got into my adulthood knowing that I did not want anything to do with debt. I didn't understand finances, but I definitely didn't want debt. And I was lucky, like I didn't have to take on much debt throughout my early 20s, which is I'm a privileged person for that. I know that that's not true for a lot of people. But I also I very much avoided credit card debt. So I think I was really lucky just having that instinct. And then I've had to reshift a lot of beliefs and becoming an entrepreneur and managing a business and bringing the feminine into that and not being afraid of it like I was before. Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
So in contrast, I grew up with a single mom and grandma, and the whole story in my house was rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yes.
And so basically what that meant, I mean, my mom used to do this little funny thing. It's like, you must pay the rent. I can't pay the rent. You must pay the rent. I mean, I don't even know where that came from. But anyway, so that was part of it. And my mom was a secretary, and probably when she retired made $24,000 a year, you know, with mom and a single mom and a grandma. But the biggest day in our household was when my grandma would ride the bus down in Seattle from North Seattle to the University District, go to the Bank of America, borrow $300 and come home. And it was like we had hit the jackpot. Like we had food, different types of food. She would feel energized, so she would kind of change the house around. And so, I mean, it was such a different type of story because they didn't have enough money to survive, you know. And I was telling Erin the other day, I mean, sometimes they would even go to Nordstrom and get a gift certificate at the time and then cash it in for $100 so that they would have money to go buy food. And so that had impacted me over the years, that credit was a good thing and that it meant having fun. And so I've had to unpack that. It has fed or served me well in certain times in being an entrepreneur, of being able to balance money and get money and then pay it back. So, you know, everybody has a money story. Let's share some of these in the chat. Laura says, let me just scroll up here. Laura said, my mom used to say that all the time, rob Peter to pay Paul. Also single mom who worked an admin job. So very similar. Sandy, I grew up lower middle class. We never had money. Alcoholic father. drank away their money. I mean, there's so many stories. So Erin, let's start there. And I know we have a lot to get through today. So let's start unpacking.
Absolutely. Let me share my screen, but maybe in that time period, Joni, can I ask you, when did you realize that was maybe not the healthiest way of managing money? Was it in your 20s or like
in my 20s? Yeah. But it's been something that I've had to unpack for a long time, because it's not just because you unpack it, but sometimes it rears its ugly head again.
Yes,
so,
completely.
Yeah, very interesting.
Okay, can you see, what are you actually seeing on my screen?
Money, wealth, and the stories we tell.
Okay, great. So you're not seeing a presenter view.
Right, we're fine.
Okay, great. All right, excellent. Well, this is a great segue, and thank you everyone for sharing yours. Please keep sending us, the first money memory, or what kind of beliefs you inherited or you experienced as a child. I think part of the idea that we talk about a lot at NAVID is, money is much more about psychology than it is about math, like I said. And you can rephrase. The best part about this is that you inherit these things from your childhood. Scarcity mindset is a huge one that I'm hearing repeated here, right? And then I had it too. But the best part is that you have this power as an adult to start to reframe. Like if you take the time to reflect on these beliefs, then we don't talk about them, right? So this is like, it's so powerful to hear other people's stories, because there's a lot of common themes that come up in the human experience. Yes. And especially the feminine, right? Because often we were not included, or our mothers could never have made more than $40,000 in admin, or $25,000 in an admin job, right? So these stories we inherit, they're meaningful, and they take time as adults to either take the good, to reflect on the good. And because some of those things might be like, your mother was a hustler, she taught you how to work and figure it out, right? And yep. In my world, I think the work ethic I was given was a good one. But what are the things we want to leave and take from, like, we acknowledge that we're good from childhood, and we also acknowledge we're not things that we wanted to bring into adult, like that we now as adults can reframe and move forward with. So again, like I said, there's a great book. It's called The Psychology of Money. If anyone is interested in like going down this path of that, it's more the psychology and the emotional behavioral side of money. But I love this quote, where money has very little to do with how smart you are and a lot to do with how you behave. And I think that there's it's so true, right? And there's no judgment, right? In my opinion, this is NAVID tries to do very much, is that we are all just an amalgamation of all of these different things: our strengths, who we are as people, our personalities, our industries, the things we choose to, the way we choose to make money, the things we like to study and do, and our personalities, and then our habits and our values. And the things that we can really change over time are the habits and the belief systems, that if we take the time to reflect. So that's kind of when we talk about empowerment and money mindset, taking back that power and saying, wait a minute, like what relationship do I want to have with money? I have power in this. Money does what I tell it to do at the end of the day. There's a lot of huge power in that. Do you feel that way too? Do you see that in your world?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that just having money in the bank is such an empowering tool to know that you can do anything. You can make choices that you can't. When you have a scarcity mindset, it opens up the world in ways that you can't, you have no idea.
Yes.
Can't imagine.
And I talk about this a lot. So that's part of I believe that financial wellness or well-being is really a part of the human health experience and holistic health. And that's, so to your point, you have money in the bank, that's giving you confidence. That's giving you like this sense of self, that I can kind of freedom to take on challenges, because you're not having to worry about, if you eat or if you have a place to live. And there really is a survival mode that we all get in. And we've all, everyone has different journeys, and people have been in survival mode at different times in their life, for sure. And that's just part of, like, thinking about money as part of, okay, I want to get sleep. I want to, sleep makes me more functional the next day, or better, mother.
Sleep better. I just want to point out, you do sleep better when you have money.
Well, because you're not waking up worried about it. Totally. Totally. Yes. Yeah.
Erin, just to interrupt you, I think one thing that's so important to point out here is that Erin looks at money as being about well-being. And so it's a whole collective, as you see right here. It's holistic health with money involved.
Yeah, because I think society does this thing where we pin self-worth, or like there's been a very masculine and patriarchal narrative around money, right? Your self-worth is tied to it. You're a big, powerful dude if you have, if you're the big CEO on Wall Street. Like there have been an image, like, our media hasn't helped with the bling and the, all the like image things that come with appearances of money. And we want to dispel that. And we want to like take away all this rhetoric and all the like the way money has been presented in our capitalist society, and move it towards like, you do need to eat, and you do need to survive, and you do need to feed your family. And so money is just a part of the narrative of you living a healthy life. And so I really thank you for saying that, because I really do believe this is health is wealth and wealth is health. So there are two parts to it that we talk about a lot. And I say, it's not about math, but there is this component of knowledge. I think, one of the things that keeps us oppressed and keeps different groups marginalized is a lack of literacy, right, around financial systems. And there is also access, which is always a problem, but we have not done a good job in like basically the boomer down generation teaching how finances work to our populations. And we really, it's pretty pathetic, the numbers I don't need to tell you, but that creates a problem. So where I like to break it down on the knowledge side is you got to start with the basics. Don't worry about, it is a massive, crazy financial system, right? Like how the real estate crisis happened was like people like gambling basically in hot air and way too complicated systems. Like you talk about Wall Streets and securities and all these things, that's a really complicated financial system that actually we don't need to know yet. You have to start with like what actually is most important is starting with what affects you, and how do the basics really help you create a foundation. And once you feel confident with that foundation, then talking about diversifying your portfolio, or what are fees, or how people are taking, what is crypto and all these things that are happening now in the market. That's the next step. The first step is really the baseline knowledge. And that is, you can get it from, we have resources, but you can get it. People are talking about finances now. So if you hashtag financial literacy on TikTok, you will get like literally 500 million accounts that are talking about it. Like people, you gotta be careful what they're saying, but knowledge is something that is now much more accessible for all of us.
Yeah, and I just want to note in the chat, Camille said she wished she paid more attention in econ class. Just start today. That's all you need to do.
Yes,
Right.
Yes, it's never too late to start. You're right. And I had a good econ teacher, but I don't think he made any sense at the time. I was like 17. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I don't understand what you're saying. Yeah, and then of course the second is the psychology, so the beliefs and triggers. So we'll get into that a little bit more. We just talked about this. Risk tolerance is a thing, self-esteem. So from a like money mindset, where decisions are really drawn on, and I love to hear, some of your thoughts on this, Joni, but it's okay to break them down. Like there are many different factors that actually contribute to your mindset. So it's not just your beliefs or what you feel, right? There is a personality. They're just like, I am enthusiastic and a little bit extroverted, right? Like, that's a personality that engages in one way of the world. Obviously, I have a lot of friends that are introverted, or my son is quieter than I am. He takes longer to process things. He's not a verbal processor. Those things matter when you're really thinking about complicated things, or you're thinking about how you want money or income, or decisions with investment or even debt management, how you integrate and think through those things. So being kind to your, do you feel that? Yeah, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about, on this list here, like values are really important to me, and how I live my life, and how I shop, for instance. So I try to buy from women-owned businesses. I try to buy sustainable, and, I look for, like, one of the reasons why I purchase things from Athleta versus Lululemon is that they're a B Corp. So, that value-based purchasing that's something that I make decisions about every day.
Yes, and I bet, and that's beautiful, and that plays into probably your personality, thinking about like how I can make a small impact in the world with the things that I have power over, right? It's beautiful.
Well, and it aligns with my PR firm. So, it's like, so I want to be in full alignment, like your mindset, with what I do for work every day, as well as how I spend my money and how I live.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, as you get older, we have these choices. That's the best, like we start to make a little bit more money. It's hard when you're really young and you're just starting out, and you have to make cost benefit analyses, right? Like I went off, and I didn't talk about this part of it, but I went off to Africa when I was 21 years old, and I made a specific cost benefit analysis of I wanted the experience of living and working in Africa. I then started working for Doctors Without Borders. I wanted this like humanitarian experience at a very young age, but I made the choice of not making very much money, right? I didn't lose money. You make money and then you don't have any costs because you're in a war zone. What are you going to spend your money on, right? But, I know other people that really specifically like went out and worked really hard and went to finance industry or some industry, worked really, really hard, made a bunch of money in the early, 20s, and then worked on retiring early, or at least getting out of that industry and moving on to something that made them more happy, but they weren't happy. They were on a mission, right? So these are really, it's a cost benefit analysis all the time, and where you are in your life, your values, your personalities, it all factors in, and there's no right way. That's, I think, the key thing here for me is that the finance industry has historically kind of tried to imply that there's one way of doing things, which is really a typical male narrative, right? You get out of school, you work, you save, you have family, then you retire, right? And like that narrative is blown up now, right?
Blown up,
and we don't have to listen to it. And there's no right way. Yes, thank God, exactly. Yes. So habits is another one. I think habits is a really important one that I still, work really hard on. And part of using habit for me is identifying my own habits, because you don't really have it's really hard to identify, I go online and buy something on, Amazon when I'm tired at the end of the day and my willpower is low and I put the kids to bed and I just want some like endorphin, hit, like I want something positive in my life. Or, for me, for sure, when I go grocery shopping, when I'm hungry, I for sure come out with $50 more than I would if I was not hungry, right? Like those are complicated things, and they take time to identify, but over time, those habits build up and they are part of your money management story. So they're helpful to identify and see, and kind of take the time to try and identify some of them are good, right? It's not that they're bad. We have this image in America of you have to change your habits, and that's not, it's not about that.
There is some statistic about buying coffee every day. Over the course of a lifetime, if you went and bought a latte every day, it would equal like $1 million. I mean, it was
You've lost like $1 million, but that's also considering you didn't invest it either.
Right, yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, it's that type of decision on a daily basis that makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah. And it's a good point, because I think when we talk from a female perspective, women lose almost $1 million of wealth over time by not investing early in their life, right? And there's no judgment. If you could, no matter what day or age you are, you can start investing. But because we haven't had these conversations, and we don't have the habit of building wealth, or the habit of thinking about our money as this incredible thing we can grow, we lose out. And I think, there's this incredible opportunity of time with money. If you start earlier managing your money, you have more time to make more money, right? And so habits are an important part of, do you have the habit of savings? And when you save, do you have the habit of investing? And, et cetera. Yeah.
One of my young employees is on today, and she's 21, I believe. And I'm like, you need to be on this call today. And, and just so I'm so glad she's here. And then secondly, I wish I had taken my mom's advice when I was 21 and paid myself first. I look back, I'm like, wow, if I had paid myself first, even just 10% of every paycheck from 21 to today, I'd be golden.
Yes.
Yeah. And that would be
Think about if you had invested in Microsoft and Amazon and all the companies we have in this part of our world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's really
what it could have, should have, but let's move on. We can start today.
Exactly. And you're fine. Like, I mean, there's no regret. I think we all are on our own journey, and we all have to find financial empowerment on our own, because it really is self-driven. Needs are also an interesting one, because there is this, like, we can't disassociate this. And this is like, we have financial coaches. So our financial coaches can help you with values and habits and emotions. Needs are really a cool one for therapists. And I think I'm all for, therapy has saved me multiple times in my life, but there is really a sense, like I have identified that I had this male narrative around power and money that I really had to dispel, right? That belonging or that sense of love was associated with misbehavior than some financial reward, right? And that is a huge thing that I have had to disassociate for myself, and also make sure I don't do for my children, like to my child, so there is an element that we can't, belonging, achievement, these are just human needs, right? Self-esteem, control, those are all, and you'll place value on those in different ways. But identifying them and helping you then extrapolate that to, like, okay, what is my narrative around money? It really helps you figure out your values and your habits in a different way. But they're just basic human needs that we have. And they're part of the narrative. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, continue on.
That also leads to the emotion. So, right, like the cause and the feeling of how they impact your thoughts and behaviors. We are disempowered in this society because they have a really great grasp of fear mongering, right? Our news has fear mongering. The financial system are the kings of fear mongering. Like, if you don't invest now, you're going to be destitute in retirement, right? You have debt now, like, you're going to be in debt the rest of your life. Your credit score is never going to be good, right? Fear is such a stagnator, and it is a method of control. So that I feel like, and I've said this to you before, but when we take back control of our narrative and control of our money and feel empowered around money management, it really is a form of social rebellion or social revolution, because we're saying no more. You people can't tell me what to do. You people can't control me. I need to navigate my finances, and I'm free to make choices that are not dependent on you or your judgment, right? And I think it's the next wave of our kind of empowerment as women.
I love that.
I get a little feisty on that one.
Yeah. Me too. I'm right there with you.
Yes, it's amazing. So the next step is really opening it up to the wonderful audience, and let's talk about our money stories. And maybe you and I can kind of go through some of these. These are questions. We have 3 exercises. We will send this to everyone towards the end, for the end of this call. It takes some reflection. But the first question is really like your personality. Can you identify? I'm going to make you do this, Joni. Sorry.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
Okay. I won't make you do all of them, but you've given us some of them, and I can do mine too. But can you identify your predominant characteristics? Like
enthusiastic, extrovert.
Go team. Yes.
And I love new stuff. I mean, I like new design and new, colors and all of that. So
beauty, creativity.
So creativity is a huge part of who I am, and that is definitely part of my personality.
Yes, I think we're very similar. And I think we both share this desire, like we're entrepreneurs, so a personality to go for it and try things and take risks. And
I'm definitely a risk taker.
Yeah, I feel you. Me too. We can't do this entrepreneur stuff, but that affects, our money. Like, so we are more willing to take risks with money. I also, managing credit and we take investor, we're a tech company, so we have to take on investor money, and there's a risk with that. I'm comfortable with that. And what's interesting to me about that, my personality likes that more than I like, though I do it, more than I like investing in the stock market. Do you want, it's been a major conversation in my own head about this, but I really, historically, I'm much better now, but historically I hated putting money into my brokerage account or whatever, my Roth IRA, and seeing that money go down and feeling like I didn't have control of it. So clearly control is a thing for me, but I was more willing to take a much bigger risk, right? Mm-hmm. The stock market tends to have like trends over time, that it goes up and down, but it rises generally over time. There might be a correction, it might be dramatic, but eventually it will continue to rise. That's in principle, right? The last 40 or 50 years. Entrepreneurship, it's like a 1 in a 50 chance that a company succeeds, but there's a feeling, at least my personality, is that at least I have control over that, right? Or at least I think I have control, some control.
Yeah, but you can lose a lot of money. I mean, you can lose a lot of money regardless, but I'm definitely a risk taker. That's why I'm involved with 3 different businesses, right? You too.
Yes, yes, I love that.
So as far as values, I would say woman owned. I try to do that as much as I can. Sustainability is a huge value for me. And I would say, I'll just add beauty to that, because I do spend a lot of money on flowers and beautifying my home and garden.
Yes, art and creativity. We are very much the same. The thing I would add is, and women owned for sure, is travel for me. Is something that is a really important, and I do spend, being on an entrepreneur salary where I don't have copious amounts of money, I still make sure that I have enough that we can go on trips that just make me happy.
Yeah, and I would say the other thing is natural products, like shopping at our local community co-op is really important to me, and shopping at the farmers market. So I'm shopping local as much as possible. I try to avoid Amazon as much as I can.
Oh, and it's hard in this city of Seattle. Yes.
Yeah, when it's right here.
What's interesting about that plays into your habits too. It means that you invest time in that, like going to the farmer's market, taking the time to find local, taking the time to find female owned, like that takes time and effort. And that's really clearly, obviously, a habit also that you feel like that you've probably developed over time. I'm curious also, I can't see the chat, but if anyone wants to answer these for themselves in the chat, please feel free.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Habits, what are yours?
Yes, habits. So I definitely, now that I have Navit, Navit breaks down transactions every 48 hours and lets you swipe those, that has been a lifesaver for me, because I really hate looking back at 30 days. Like it feels really overwhelming if I'm reconciling something or looking at those, because you can't remember, it's such a pain. But so by breaking it down, that's been a really good shift for me of like feeling more in control and more like less overwhelmed, because I can just break it down. I remember what I did usually. And if I have something I want to check, it's much more in the moment. It feels less stressful than the kind of overall accounting that is required when you're actually trying to manage money on a monthly basis. The other thing that I tend to do is I tend to save in big chunks. So I'm not I'm always, I'm kind of thinking of one thing that I want to save for. Like I want to save for, this trip that we're going to go on, or I want to save on this. I do kind of automatically save. I've automated my, a little bit of money each month to investing on Vanguard, but I do tend to need to have a goal to save for in my head. But yeah, so, and what do you think? Maybe just one habit, you don't have to do more.
Yeah, I think saving for something big is important, and just to put that in even a different account and just know it's there. So that's one thing I do. Yeah. So let's talk about needs.
Yes, exactly. So sense of belonging, affection, esteem, achievement, power, and control. I think this is a question, and obviously we can all answer this on our own. You don't have to if you don't want to, but there's definitely this needs makes it something that usually we got from childhood. So for me, that affection and achievement are associated with money. And I've had to kind of reframe that in a lot of ways. Like my success as an entrepreneur, my net worth has nothing to do with who I am as a person. And if I do fail at this business, then I will have learned something, and my worth is not associated with that. That was a big one for me as I started a business.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, I think that's a really good way let's go into emotions. I think, so Dawn says here, needs equals safe, secure, and independent. That's so true. Yes, thank you for sharing that. As far as emotions go, I mean, sometimes, if I think I've purchase something that was, I mean, mainly in my clothes, I really like clothes. So, sometimes like, oh, why did I spend that money? So
Yeah.
I'm trying to have I'm working on having more mindset that it's like, it's okay that I purchased that. And I think that just comes from, growing up with not a lot of money and, going to the Goodwill and buying clothes there. And now knowing that I can purchase what I want. So I still have that mindset of scarcity because it was my whole life growing up.
Yeah. And what's beautiful about that, thank you for sharing that. It also is, it shows that this is not a one and done. I used to kind of think, oh, I had this sense of life, like you have a problem, you solve it, right? And it's over. But the reality is money, this money mindset thing it's an evolution, and you grow, and now you're probably more compassionate with yourself when you make that purchase than feel bad. And then it's just an evolution over time, and allowing yourself, especially that compassion, the self-compassion.
Yes. So we're going to send this out to everyone and really spend time thinking. And we went through this really quickly, but give yourself some time to even process this over, the next week, for instance. It will be really helpful for you as you look at your money and your mindset around money. So let's go to exercise 2.
Yes. So exercise 2, and we can also, we don't have to answer these. We'll just go through these. These are also questions that they're supposed to be kind of initiators for you to kind of get into what your childhood stories were, what your money story is, and what it is now. So I love that one. What's your first money memory? What beliefs about money did you learn from your mom and dad or other important influences like we talked about in our lives? And what beliefs have you built around money in your adulthood? I think those, there's a lot of things that happen in our adulthood that also change these narratives for us. I'm wondering, do you talk to your mom about money? I know she passed, I believe.
Yeah, she passed. Yeah. We did for a long time. I think one of the things that I would like to share is that one thing that my mom did for me was, even though we would shop at the Goodwill every once in a while, my grandma on tax day, every year on April 15th, she would take me out of school and she would take me to Frederick and Nelson's downtown Seattle when we used to have one. And she would buy now, and it's the Nordstrom now, but she would buy me a new dress. And that was just, again, she knew she was going to get some money. So then it equated to, I could have a new dress and usually patent leather shoes.
Adorable.
So, that is something that I think about for the kids in my life. While they're not my own, it's like, how do you make those special moments,
totally.
Be part of their life when they grow up and get older and have a better mindset,
Yeah. And it's a beautiful memory that you have to share with, with her. Yeah. You'll have to send us a picture of you in the patent leather shoes.
I know. Okay. I will.
Excellent. Amazing. Yeah. So this is a great exercise. Take your time with it. This is also something you could talk to a money coach or talk to a therapist about, because this is all part of our journey. We all have unique experiences. We also, one other thing, if you're interested in hearing about money stories, we have a podcast where we ask people their money stories like this. Joni, I'll have to have you come on and tell us your story.
I would love that.
Yeah. But it's what I hope it conveys is that you are not wrong. There's nothing bad. You've done nothing wrong in your life, right? Everyone has these really complicated, unique stories and have inherited things. And part of our adulthood is being able to reframe and think about them. So the third exercise, this one also, it has the potential to take a while, but I'm happy to do it with everyone. This one's really fun. So after you kind of go through exercise 2 and you identify some of the stories or things that, your experiences, we have an exercise where you can separate those out. So you kind of take the ones, if you can list out some of the beliefs that you have about money, take the ones that you actually feel grateful for, that you think serve you, like hard work and, maybe some of managing money and being confident managing complicated money situations, right? Honor them with gratitude. So column B is put those in that column B and honor the gratitude that it gave you, even the negative ones. there are things that help me along the way. Like I'm grateful my dad was an entrepreneur, because I saw what that world was like, even though I don't want to do it in the same way he does. And I definitely have a much more feminine narrative around it, and less combative and aggressive. The reality is I'm grateful I had that experience, because it's made me who I am today, and it's given me confidence to navigate things, but on my own terms, right? So take the things that served you, give them gratitude, take the things you feel like you'd like to reframe, like for me, the hyper masculinity of money, and like always feeling like there was a fight around it. I'm again grateful for the experience. And then the best part is column C, where you can reframe. So take the ones that don't feel like they serve you, like money is only for men, or money is something that you have to, like, you essentially, I wouldn't say abuse people, but you don't have a healthy environment when you create money. And my reframing has always been like, wait, no, money can be found, or can be managed and built in a healthy and positive way. Like money can be something that is not so oppressive or aggressive. It can be something that comes with my hard work and me showing up in the world. And so yeah, does that make sense as I explained that?
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, reframing.
So Laura just said, now I think money is energy in action. And somebody said recently, it's like money likes structure. And like, I thought that was such a good analogy. It's like it likes structure. And when money and structure go together, it moves better together.
Yes.
And
did someone say that in the chat?
No.
You heard that recently. I love it. I
Mm-hmm.
love it. Yeah, because that also helps you kind of give your self-structure around it, right? Do I look at,
exactly.
Yeah. Do you feel like, have you ever, I think you and I have talked about this before, but that reframing exercise, have you ever used that before in your life? Or have you heard of this before?
Reframing, yes.
Yeah. Isn't it great?
Yes. I mean, robbing Peter to pay Paul has been reframed.
Yes.
To pay myself first.
Pay myself first. Exactly. That's a perfect example. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect reframe on that.
Yeah. Reframing has been something that even, as I raise my child, like it's been a practice now that doesn't have to do just with money, right? It has, like, when I see, maybe he's down on himself or he's down about something, it's been a great practice just to say, okay, what could the opposite statement be, or what's the opposite belief here? And then it's just it's basically helping you reprogram your neural pathways, because you have one set of ways of thinking, right? It's like giving the opposite way really is powerful. So, and
if you want to look up neural pathways, I encourage you to do so, because you can change your neural pathways and your muscular memory. So
yeah, it's incredible.
It's an opportunity for all of us to look at that.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So this is just the final quote I'll leave you with. We also have one more kind of way of shifting your narrative. So, but money is everywhere and affects us all, and it confuses most of us. So know that you are not alone in all of these conversations. And I'd be really curious, please, in the chat, tell us what you feel like is a belief that you got from childhood that you feel like has served you in your lifetime, because it's always fun to see. And then go ahead. No, please go ahead.
No, this is perfect. Perfect transition.
Okay, yeah. So the way we talk about kind of shifting your money story, again, thinking about the knowledge and the psychology, is really on the first set, like going through these exercises, thinking about them, talking to people about them, talking to a therapist about them, talking to a financial coach, whoever you need to talk to, just your friends, your partner. I think you made a great point earlier, Joni, that like we are not always entities unto ourselves, and navigating money is a complicated thing with partners. And that's what I've seen when people as a couple come together and kind of work through their money stories and what they want, their values and their habits. It becomes a really powerful collaborator, and like an impetus to them becoming closer as a couple and really thinking of building wealth together as a team. I think that, you are often, we're navigating this world kind of in our own, in our own little space and world.
Yeah.
But having
well, somebody mentioned earlier, sorry to interrupt you, but somebody mentioned earlier that she got married with two people with two different mindsets. So that's an important conversation to have. And I love how you framed that about working together around your money story and acknowledging that, because we all have our money story.
We all do. And when you understand your partners, that was something for me. I mean, I love my ex-husband. We're friends. We were not meant to be together, but we're friends. And when I started to understand his money story, it helped a lot with the way we manage money, right? Because I was much more empathetic to him, and the things that annoyed me about the way he managed money made a lot more sense when we started kind of thinking through this together and kind of identifying how we could build wealth as a couple, and like what were the kind of strategies we wanted to do that together. So I think it's the other thing that I would say for women, and I have all these statistics. You asked me why I'm passionate about women and finances, but having the ability to, like, women are 40% of heads of households are now women, right? Like, and even with this crisis,
amazing.
It's incredible. Yeah. We control like 7.6 trillion in personal income and like 5 trillion in assets, like outside of that, and just like assets. So there's incredible power there, but it also allows us to choose the relationships we want to be in. And having that power, I love my ex-husband, but I needed to get out of that marriage. And the reason I was able to is because I had my own money and I was able to manage a divorce. And I am grateful for him and for that experience, but I'm incredibly grateful that I had the money I had to be able to get out of a relationship that wasn't meant to be. So it's also this empowering thing for us to have the freedom to choose what our lives need to be. So I'm happy to talk more about that, but it's a little bit of a downer. Sorry.
No, I think it's really good, like you said in the beginning, to share stories, because we have similar stories. All of us do. And yeah. I know that, Laura here on the chats, like, we have very similar stories. I'm sure somebody has a similar story to you. And knowing that you're not alone is so important. And that you can align your money story and not feel that you can feel empowered and not be in this trench of like, I can't get out, because you can't. So we have a couple more minutes here, Erin. So let's go through this fairly quickly.
Absolutely. Yes. So mindset, identification, desired outcomes. So this is really helpful to say, what are my goals? Like, what am I trying to do? Am I trying to create a financial foundation? Am I trying to start to build wealth? Am I trying to pay for an education? Am I paying, what are the outcomes that you're looking to have, and specifically financial goals? Then always looking at your spending and your banking. So banking is a really powerful thing that over time can really benefit you. Also, to your point, Joni, where we put our money in a bank really is probably the most significant impact you have in your purchasing power, right? So there are and I'll send resources, but there are ways of finding out what your bank does. Like, does your bank put money back into communities where you bank? Does your bank loan out?
That would be a great asset for all of us to have.
Yeah, there's a really cool website that has that all listed out. Like, do they invest in marginalized populations, et cetera? So just thinking about where you put your banking and investing are the two big places where your money really has a huge impact. So looking at those, looking at your spending habits, kind of getting the foundations, going to your belief patterns as you look at your habits and your spending. What are things that serve me? What are things that I feel drain me? How can I shift? And then really the last two are like the creme de la creme, and where I want like women to move towards in our generation, and really like, you have all the power in the world to generate wealth and make more money from the money that you make, and thinking about your legacy. And again, as a form of social rebellion, taking back that narrative, growing your wealth, becoming financially secure so that you can support other women and generations to come. So I'm happy to talk about more of that. There's so much more, but I think
there's so much more. Yes. And I think a couple of questions, and I don't know the answer to this, Erin. So do you have personal consulting available or not?
We do. Yes, we have certified financial coaches available. So if anyone wants to reach out to me, I'm happy to work with them and find people that are the right fit for them.
Okay, that is terrific. And then quickly, how do you feel about ethical versus regular investing?
I have so many thoughts.
I think I'm going to hold that question, and maybe that's something that we can do later, Lori.
Sure.
I've made decisions for ethical investing, and I think that that's just a longer, like hour-long conversation that we can have.
Huge. Yeah, we do have a podcast about ESG investing. If you're interested now, with a financial planner, advisor, that's great. And I feel strongly that it is the future. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely. A couple of things I want to leave you with. One of our other speakers, she was a feng shui expert. And one of the things that she encouraged everyone to do is to put a bill in your wallet, say maybe a $20 bill if that's meaningful to you, or a $100 bill. And always have that in your wallet, because that shows that you have a money mindset and that you always have money with you. And so I set that in my wallet at the beginning of the year. And I have to say, there's something to that. Like just having some cash there, it's like a money mindset thing. It's like, and it's also inviting more in. So I'll leave you with that. Erin, we want to play a little song here because I think it's really important, and maybe that will come on in just a moment. And then we'll see if it will come on. It's all about money and inviting women to save money, be better with money. And Erin, I want to ask you just a couple of questions. Who are you inspired by right now?
Oh, it's a great question. I don't want to get political, but I am, I have to say, whatever you think of Kamala Harris, I think that by being the first woman of color and vice president of this country, and that's never that's a thankless job, irregardless of who you are, that she still has survived and is still working, I think, she's taken all the hits and taken all that. I want to be able to have that much flack coming at me and still stand as a woman representing the people that I represent, and trying to do my best. So sorry if that's too political, but I really feel for her. Yeah. Yeah.
And what are you reading right now?
Oh, that's so funny. I love that you asked. Finance for the People. This woman, Paco de Leon, is she's one of our collaborators. She's this amazing BIPOC woman out of LA who just wrote this book about finance for the people, and kind of as finances or money is the social rebellion and that kind of world. So I love it.
I should interview her.
She's amazing. Yes. Yeah. We just had her on the podcast. I am happy to send this book to everyone.
That would be great. And our conversation, Erin, I'm so inspired by you. We so align on this mission to elevate women, to take over the world faster. I mean, I know that that's our mutual audacious goal that's right in front of us. So thank you so much for joining us. And for all of you, thank you for being here today. We invite you to look at other upcoming Rebel 11 events, and it's all on rebel11.com. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thanks for having me, Joni. Thank you.
Bye, Erin. Thanks a lot.
Bye. Bye, Laurie.